When I first started out, I had big dreams, bigger than my wallet, bigger than my confidence, and certainly bigger than my experience. But here's what I learned: thinking big is not the hard part. Most people can do that. The challenge is building those big dreams 1 inch at a time. You see, dreams are free. Anyone can close their eyes and imagine a mansion, a business empire, or a life of financial freedom. But the hustle, the discipline, the small daily effort that transforms dreams into reality, that part costs you. It costs sweat, time, and patience. Most people quit there, not because the dream was impossible, but because they didn't respect the process of slow construction. I remember when I first began working with my mentor. He told me, don't start by asking for $1 million idea. Start by asking for the discipline to handle $10 properly. That struck me deep. Because if you can't manage $10, what makes you think you can handle 10,000 or 10 million? Every fortune begins with a single dollar well managed, a single hour well used, a single promise kept to yourself. Wealth doesn't appear in one big leap. It accumulates in layers of consistent effort. You see, the wealthy think in decades but act in days. They can see 10 years ahead, but they work like today is the only day that matters. They build empires brick by brick, deal by deal, decision by decision. You don't need to build the whole staircase before taking the first step. Take one step, then another. Success is not one big event. It's a series of small victories stacked on top of each other. That's how ordinary people create extraordinary results. Now, I often meet people who are waiting for the right timing, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting until they feel ready. Let me tell you something: you will never feel ready. The conditions will never be perfect. If you wait for all the lights to turn green before leaving your driveway, you'll never get to town. Start with what you have, from where you are, and with what you know. The magic happens after you move, not before. Action creates clarity. So write down your dream, the big one. Then, underneath it, write one small thing you can do today that moves you closer. Read one chapter, make one call, save $1, practice one skill. Do it again tomorrow. Over time, those inches turn into miles. Those small wins build momentum, and momentum builds empires. The dream may be big, but the work is always small, repeated faithfully over time. Remember, it's not the dreamers who succeed, it's the builders who do. Before you can think rich, you must first learn to think growth. Too many people chase money before they've developed the capacity to manage what comes with it. You see, money doesn't change who you are, it magnifies it. If you're careless with a little, you'll be reckless with a lot. If you're generous with a little, you'll be generous with a lot. So the first order of business isn't to earn more, but to become more. You don't attract wealth by chasing it. You attract it by growing into the kind of person who can handle it. Now, that's where mindset comes in. Not just any mindset, but a growth mindset. The poor and struggling tend to think in limits. They say, I can't afford it. I'm not qualified. It's too late for me. The wealthy, on the other hand, ask different questions. They don't say, I can't. They ask, how can I? That single question transforms every obstacle into an opportunity for creativity. When I first started out, I couldn't afford books, but I could afford a library card. So I went to the library and read until my mind expanded beyond my circumstances. The problem wasn't my wallet, it was my perspective. Once I grew in thinking, opportunities started finding me. A growth mindset says, I may not have it all figured out yet, but I can learn. It understands that failure is feedback, not finality. Every time you stumble, you collect data. You learn what doesn't work, and that's priceless information. The wealthy treat mistakes as tuition, a cost of learning, not a reason to quit. The poor let failure shame them. The rich let it shape them. You see, the mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant and nurture grows. If you plant doubt, fear, and excuses, your garden will be full of weeds. But if you plant curiosity, courage, and learning, your life begins to bloom. That's why you must feed your mind daily. Read something uplifting. Listen to something educational. Talk to people who stretch your thinking. If you surround yourself with those who complain, you'll inherit their limitations. But if you spend time with people who grow, you'll inherit their mindset. I remember a time I asked my mentor how to make more money. He said, "Don't ask for more money, ask for more wisdom. Because if you grow wiser, money will come chasing you." That was a turning point for me. I stopped chasing income and started chasing improvement. And the funny thing is, once you grow enough, wealth becomes the natural consequence of who you've become. So before you think like the rich, think like a learner. Build your mind before you build your empire. Because wealth isn't something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you become. Let me tell you something that most people never truly understand. Wealth doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from how much you keep and what you do with it. I've seen countless people chase big paychecks, new cars, fancy gadgets, and flashy lifestyles, only to end up with empty pockets and bigger bills. The truth is, the poor spend to look rich. They buy applause, they buy attention, they buy a sense of worth from other people's eyes. The rich, on the other hand, save to stay rich. They understand that financial freedom is a product of stewardship, not showmanship. When I was first starting out, I didn't have much. I was broke, sitting at a tiny table with bills stacked around me, and I had to make a choice. I could spend every cent I earned chasing appearances, or I could pay myself first, even if it was just $1. I chose the latter. That $1 saved became a habit, and that habit became a foundation. You see, paying yourself first is not about how much you make. It's about honoring your future self. It's telling yourself, I'm worth more than momentary pleasure. Here's the principle in action when your paycheck arrives. Immediately set aside a portion. I recommend 10% for savings and another 10% for investments. Don't wait until the bills are paid or the week is over. Make it a non-negotiable bill to your future. Treat it like rent, like taxes, like anything else you must pay. When you commit to this practice, it becomes automatic. And here's the secret: consistency beats quantity every time. It's not about the size of the initial savings. It's about the habit that compounds over months and years. Avoid buying applause. You don't need flashy items or status symbols to prove anything to anyone. True wealth is quiet. It grows in accounts, investments, and opportunities while you sleep. Stocks, real estate, or a business that produces returns. These are the soldiers that work for you while your attention is elsewhere. And every dollar you save or invest is a worker on your team. You don't give them busy work. You give them a mission to multiply and secure your freedom. I've lived this lesson. I've watched fortunes grow slowly and steadily because the habit of saving and investing became as natural as brushing my teeth. No one noticed at first, but over time, the results spoke louder than words. You'll find that when you consistently honor your future, wealth doesn't chase you, it rushes toward you. Start today. Pay yourself first. Build the habit before you build the income, and your financial life will thank you for decades to come. Let me share something that many people overlook, yet it is the difference between fleeting wealth and lasting financial freedom. Emotion is the enemy of money. Money in itself is neither good nor bad. It's a tool, a servant, and a powerful one when handled with care. But when it becomes your master, when your decisions are driven by fear, greed, envy, or impulsiveness, it will run you into the ground faster than any circumstance ever could. I've seen brilliant people destroy opportunities, savings, and investments simply because they let feelings dictate their choices instead of principles. Think about it. How often do people buy things they don't need just to feel good in the moment? How often do they panic, sell investments when the market wavers, or chase trends, hoping to strike it rich overnight? That's emotion at work, temporary satisfaction destroying long-term stability. I've walked that path myself in my early years, when impatience tempted me to make hasty decisions. I learned the hard way that wealth isn't built in moments of excitement. It's built in the quiet, rational, and consistent decisions made day after day. The first principle to guard against emotional money is simple. Wait. Give yourself a full 24 hours before making any significant financial decision. Big purchases, investments, even career changes, pause. Sleep on it, review it, think it through. You'd be amazed at how many impulses vanish when you step back and consider the decision from a calm perspective. This pause turns knee-jerk reactions into deliberate strategy. The second principle is reflection. Keep a journal of your finances, not just numbers, but your feelings. Write down what triggered certain spending, what led to risky investments, and what choices brought you clarity and control. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll begin to recognize emotional triggers before they hijack your judgment, and you'll start making decisions based on knowledge, not reaction. Finally, act from principle, not pressure. Establish rules for yourself. Pay yourself first, invest consistently, avoid debt traps, and honor your long-term goals. When you act from principle, wealth becomes predictable. It grows quietly, steadily, and without the chaos of emotional impulses. I've learned that financial discipline, calm logic, and patience compound over years far more effectively than hasty action ever could. Master your emotions, and money becomes a loyal servant. Let your feelings run the show, and it will be a terrible master. The choice is yours. Let me tell you a truth that most people never fully embrace. Failure isn't your enemy. It's your tuition for success. The problem is, too many people see mistakes as shame, as evidence they're not good enough. That's the wrong lens entirely. Every setback, every misstep, every wrong turn is actually a gift disguised as a challenge. I've faced more failures than I can count early in my career, from missed deals to investments gone wrong. And I can tell you now, the lessons I harvested from those moments were far more valuable than any easy success ever could have been. The philosophy is simple. Don't wish for fewer problems. Wish for more skills. Life isn't going to get easier, and the market isn't going to bend to your comfort. But you can grow your capacity to handle challenges. Each time you stumble, you gain information. Each time you fail, you learn what doesn't work, sharpening your judgment and teaching you how to approach the next opportunity with more wisdom. This mindset separates those who stumble into despair from those who turn setbacks into springboards. Reflection is your greatest tool. After every setback, take time to ask yourself, what did I learn? How can I use this knowledge moving forward? Write it down. Document the patterns. I used to keep a small notebook, every mistake, every insight, every lesson. Over time, those pages became a map of how to navigate challenges, a personal playbook for smarter decisions. Success loves notes. If you treat failure as tuition and write down the lessons, you are effectively turning every mistake into an investment in your future. And here's another critical point: treat every challenge as training for your next breakthrough. When you encounter resistance, don't shrink from it. Embrace it. Stretching outside your comfort zone develops resilience, sharpens skill, and builds confidence. The wealthy don't avoid problems. They encounter them head on and extract wisdom from each one. I've seen countless young people chase only comfort, avoiding risks, and they miss the lessons that build real competence. Meanwhile, those willing to stumble, reflect, and adjust grow exponentially over time. So remember this: fail fast, but learn faster. Collect your lessons like currency and reinvest them immediately into the next effort. The mistakes you fear are actually the stepping stones to the wisdom and freedom you desire. Each challenge, each misstep is a teacher. If you pay attention, you'll graduate faster than anyone who fears to start. The path to lasting wealth is paved with learned failures, not avoided ones. Let me share something that many people misunderstand about wealth. Most folks think success is measured by the size of your house, the car you drive, or the vacations you take. They chase lifestyle, and in doing so, they trap themselves in a cycle of consumption that never ends. But real wealth, the kind that lasts beyond a single lifetime, is built differently. The philosophy is simple, but profound. The goal is not to live forever, but to create something that does. Your life is finite, but your influence doesn't have to be. The rich understand this. They think in terms of legacy, not just luxury. Early in my life, I watched people earn a fortune and spend it all on fleeting pleasures. It looked impressive from the outside, but the results faded. Families struggled, businesses closed, and knowledge was lost. On the other hand, I have seen people who quietly built systems, who invested in things that could last beyond their own time. And those systems continued to thrive long after the founder stepped away. That's the secret: build something that outlives you. Wealth should not just provide comfort for today, it should empower generations to come. The strategy is to create assets that endure. This could mean starting a business with strong principles and structures, building educational funds that give opportunities to those who follow, or creating teachings that multiply your knowledge. Money alone isn't enough. Passing down possessions without principles often leaves the next generation unprepared. But when you pass down wisdom, character, and habits, you give them something far more valuable than cash, a framework for ongoing success. Generational impact is compounded when you use your wealth to lift others. Mentorship, philanthropy, and systems that enable growth create ripples that far exceed simple interest. I've personally invested in young people, shared strategies with colleagues, and built businesses that employed hundreds. Every effort multiplied not just wealth, but opportunity and purpose. Real wealth multiplies faster when it serves others, because impact compounds in ways money alone cannot. Practical steps are clear. Create something tangible and lasting: businesses, funds, or teachings. Pass down the principles that guided your success, not just the possessions. And always use your wealth to elevate others. Impact spreads faster than interest ever could. True wealth is measured not by the lifestyle it affords, but by the lives it touches, the systems it builds, and the legacy it leaves. Build for eternity, not for applause. Let me share a truth that most people miss when chasing wealth. Too many measure success by the size of their paycheck, the car they drive, or the vacations they take. They pursue lifestyle, and in doing so, they create fleeting comfort that disappears as quickly as it comes. But real wealth, the kind that stands the test of time, is not built for today alone. It's built to last beyond your lifetime. The philosophy is simple yet profound. The goal is not to live forever, but to create something that does. Your life is temporary, but your influence doesn't have to be. Those who understand this think in terms of legacy, not mere luxury. Early in my own journey, I watched people earn great fortunes only to see them dissipate in a few years. Their homes were grand, their vacations impressive, yet nothing endured. Families struggled, businesses closed, and lessons were lost. On the other hand, I observed individuals who quietly invested in creating systems, businesses, teachings, and funds that continued thriving long after they were gone. That is the secret: wealth should not just provide comfort for today. It should create opportunity and empowerment for generations. The strategy to achieve this is straightforward, but requires discipline and vision. Build assets that last, businesses with strong foundations, educational funds that open doors for those who follow, or teachings and systems that multiply knowledge and opportunity. Money alone is insufficient. Passing down possessions without principles often leaves the next generation unprepared. However, passing down wisdom, values, and habits equips them with the tools to sustain and grow the wealth they inherit. Legacy is more about preparation and guidance than accumulation. Impact multiplies faster than interest. When you use your wealth to lift others, whether through mentorship, philanthropy, or systems that empower communities, your influence expands exponentially. I have personally invested time and resources in mentoring young people, sharing strategies, and building businesses that employed hundreds. Each act created a ripple that outlasted the initial effort. True wealth compounds when it benefits others, because contribution builds influence, reputation, an opportunity that money alone cannot buy. Practical steps are clear: create enduring assets, pass down guiding principles rather than just possessions, and use your wealth to elevate others. Measure your success not by the comforts you enjoy, but by the lives you uplift and the systems you leave behind. Build for permanence, not applause. Let me share something I've learned over the years. The richest person is not necessarily the one with the largest bank account, but the one who masters their mind. Your thoughts are more powerful than your circumstances because they shape your actions, decisions, and ultimately your destiny. I've seen talented, hardworking people fail, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they allowed negativity, doubt, and fear to dictate their choices. On the other hand, those who cultivate a disciplined, positive mind consistently attract opportunity, navigate challenges, and grow wealth beyond measure. The philosophy is simple: you can't have a positive life with a negative mind. Think about it. Every habit, every investment, every decision stems from your thinking. A mind consumed by worry and limitation will produce hesitation, missed opportunities, and poor judgment. Conversely, a mind trained in gratitude, focus, and vision will act decisively, seize opportunities, and multiply results. Early in my journey, I realized that managing my mindset required the same rigor as managing my finances. I started each day with reflection, reviewing goals, affirming my purpose, and setting intentions. By the time I left my house in the morning, my mind was aligned with opportunity instead of fear. The strategy is to treat your mind as the most valuable asset you own. Just as you would protect and grow your money, protect and grow your thinking. Surround yourself with positivity. Limit exposure to toxic conversations, news cycles that feed anxiety, and influences that plant doubt. The wealthy understand that negativity is contagious, while focus, gratitude, and vision are equally contagious. Your environment becomes a mirror to your mind. Curate it carefully. Practical steps bring this philosophy to life. Begin and end each day with gratitude and reflection. This primes your mind for clarity and resilience. Guard your environment against negativity, whether it's limiting certain media, distancing from critical voices, or choosing relationships that lift rather than drain. Finally, write affirmations that reflect the future you are building, not the past you're escaping. I have personally maintained a daily journal of affirmations and reflections. The simple act of writing down a goal or a mindset shift compounds over months and years, creating a mental infrastructure that supports bold action and lasting wealth. Remember, control your mind, or it will control you. Wealth is made first in thought, long before it arrives in your hands. I want you to think about wealth not as a number in a bank account, but as the natural outcome of disciplined habits. You see, money does not appear out of nowhere. It follows a pattern, a rhythm, a set of behaviors that, when repeated over time, compound into abundance. The philosophy is simple. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. I've watched people with great ideas fail simply because they never mastered the small, ordinary disciplines that turn vision into reality. Conversely, I've seen ordinary people achieve extraordinary results because they committed to consistent, positive habits. The truth is, the habits you cultivate today dictate the wealth you'll experience tomorrow. The strategy is clear. Before you chase extraordinary wealth, become wealthy in your habits. Motivation is fleeting, but habits are steady. It's the person who reads when they don't feel like reading, who saves when it's inconvenient, who reflects and plans when distraction calls. That builds a foundation strong enough to support fortune. The rich aren't special. They simply practice the fundamentals relentlessly. You must master the ordinary before the extraordinary can follow. In my own life, I started small, reading a chapter a day, saving a fixed percentage of every paycheck, setting aside time for reflection. These actions seemed trivial at the time, yet over decades they built skills, wisdom, and financial security far beyond my initial imagination. Practical steps help transform philosophy into action. Start with consistency. Show up every day, even when motivation fades, even when the task seems dull or the results invisible. Replace bad habits one at a time. Don't attempt to overhaul everything at once. Discipline grows when it is manageable. Overwhelm is the enemy of progress. Finally, review your habits weekly. Ask yourself, what am I repeating? What is becoming part of me? Because what you repeat, you become. A simple habit like daily reflection or saving 10% might feel small, but its compounding effect over months and years is immense. I've witnessed countless examples where one small adjustment, a daily walk, a night of reading, a savings discipline, changed trajectories entirely. Remember this: become wealthy in your habits before you become wealthy in money. Wealth is not a sudden event. It is the natural outcome of consistent, disciplined, daily action. Your habits are the unseen architecture that supports your future fortune. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. The company you keep will define the person you become. Your habits, your thinking, your ambitions, they are all influenced by those around you. The philosophy is straightforward. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This isn't just a catchy line. It's a truth I've seen play out repeatedly. I remember when I first started, I was surrounded by people who had dreams, but not discipline. Their conversations were full of excuses and complaints. Slowly, I noticed my own thinking shrinking, my expectations lowering. It wasn't until I intentionally sought out people who were already living the life I wanted, mentors, peers, and thought leaders, that I began to grow. The strategy here is to associate not with who you are now, but with the future version of yourself. The strategy is profound. Your environment shapes your expectations, your habits, and your outcomes. Wealth, growth, and success are not developed in isolation. They are cultivated in the right circles. I've seen young people with talent and drive squander their potential simply because they surrounded themselves with negativity, complacency, or short-term thinking. On the other hand, those who intentionally spend time with high, achieving, forward-thinking individuals begin to absorb the mindset, habits, and language of success. This doesn't mean abandoning loyalty or love. It means being conscious of influence and choosing environments that demand your growth. The future you isn't developed by chance. It's developed by deliberate association. Practical steps bring this philosophy into your life immediately. First, audit your circle. Honestly assess whether the people closest to you are lifting you up or pulling you down. Are their actions, conversations, and attitudes expanding your vision or shrinking it? Second, actively seek mentors, coaches, or experienced professionals who can provide guidance, insight, and challenge. Real growth often comes from people who are a step ahead of you, not those content to stay where they are. Third, join communities, networks, or groups that stretch your comfort zone. Places where you are required to elevate your thinking to belong. In my own journey, attending seminars, joining mastermind groups, and even casual dinners with visionaries had a compounding effect on my thinking, discipline, and income. The influence was subtle at first, but over time, it reshaped the person I became, and in turn, the wealth I created. So here's the essential takeaway. If you want to become the person capable of a great life, associate with the future you. Choose your company like you choose your investments, wisely, strategically, and with an eye toward compounding growth. The right associations will pull you forward, whether you realize it or not. Let me share something that often goes unnoticed, yet it's one of the most powerful forces in shaping your destiny. The people you surround yourself with. You see, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's not a metaphor. It's a principle I've witnessed in my own life countless times. When I was starting out, I had friends who had dreams but no discipline, who complained more than they acted, who envied more than they created. Spending time with them subtly influenced my thinking, my expectations, and even my ambitions. I realized that if I wanted to grow, I had to deliberately choose the company I kept. The strategy is simple, but profound. Associate with those who reflect the person you want to become, not the one you are now. Your environment, your circle, will either expand your vision or shrink it. The strategy is about conscious association. Success doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in the company of ideas, standards, and habits that elevate you. Wealth, growth, and achievement are absorbed more through proximity than instruction. I've known talented people who plateaued because they stayed in circles of mediocrity. Conversely, Those who intentionally surrounded themselves with mentors, visionaries, and people committed to self-improvement began to mirror that mindset. It's not about abandoning loyalty or old friendships. It's about being mindful of influence. Every conversation, every interaction is either moving you forward or holding you back. The rich understand this instinctively. They spend their time where growth is inevitable. Now, let's bring this principle into practical action. First, audit your circle with brutal honesty. Ask yourself, are these people expanding my vision, inspiring action, challenging my thinking, or are they keeping me small? Second, invest time with mentors, guides, or experienced individuals who can help you navigate your journey. Real growth often comes from those a step ahead, not from peers who are content where they are. Third, join communities or networks that push you beyond your comfort zone, that require you to stretch mentally and emotionally. I remember attending events and masterminds early in my career where every conversation demanded higher thinking, greater discipline, and a broader perspective. Over time, the subtle influence of these associations reshaped my habits, my mindset, and ultimately, my results. The essential takeaway is this: to become the person capable of achieving more, deliberately associate with the future version of yourself. Your company is one of the most powerful investments you can make. It compounds quietly, invisibly, but with unstoppable force. Choose wisely and watch your life transform. Let me tell you something that most people overlook. When chasing wealth, your character is your most valuable currency. You can earn money, acquire skills, and build networks, but none of that will last if your character is weak. The principle is simple yet profound. Success is something you attract by the person you become. I learned this the hard way early in my career. I could sell, I could negotiate, I could work harder than anyone. But if I didn't honor my word, if I cut corners, the doors I thought were open slammed shut. People invest in people first. Money and opportunity follow character, not the other way around. The strategy is about making your reputation stronger than your resume. Wealth built on skill alone is temporary. Wealth built on trust, integrity, and reliability compounds over a lifetime. When you keep your promises, even the small ones, you're sending a signal to the world that you can be trusted with bigger responsibilities. I recall working with a mentor who always emphasized, "Your word is your bond. Once broken, it takes years to repair." That stuck with me. Every commitment I honored, even the ones no one noticed, added invisible capital to my credibility account. It was this invisible wealth that eventually unlocked bigger deals, stronger partnerships, and lasting opportunities. Let's put this into practical steps. First, keep promises, even the small ones. Return calls, meet deadlines, honor agreements. These are the micro investments in your character bank. Second, be dependable. People should be able to rely on you without question. Dependability is like earning interest quietly in the background. It grows silently but consistently, paying dividends far beyond immediate money. Third, lead with honesty in all dealings. Transparency, even when inconvenient, creates trust that compounds faster than capital ever could. I remember a deal early on where honesty meant admitting a mistake before it could be discovered. While it seemed risky at the time, that one act earned me a client for life and opened doors to referrals I could never have bought. Here's the truth: money can follow talent, but it stays where character resides. Your skills may get attention, your money may gain respect, but your character earns influence, loyalty, and opportunity. People will invest in you, follow you, and partner with you when your integrity is visible and consistent. In the end, it's not about what you have, it's about who you are. When your character becomes your currency, wealth doesn't chase you. It seeks you out, attracted by the value of the person you've become.